Number 1. Modern feudal dynasty. North Korea is known as a socialist country, but in reality, the way it operates is no different from a feudal dynasty right in the 21st century. Power here is not based on democratic elections, but on hereditary succession, just like inheriting a throne. From Kim Il-sung, then Kim Jong-il, and now Kim Jong-un. Now, all eyes are turning to his daughter, Kim Ju-ae. Although still in her teenage years, she has appeared publicly many times at major events, from military parades to visits to missile facilities. The state media has even referred to her with the title respected, a designation originally reserved only for the leader. This has led many to believe that Kim Ju-ae may become the future successor of the country. And once it is called a dynasty, of course there are also special rules. In North Korea, having the same name as the leader is considered taboo and strictly forbidden, similar to customs in East Asian feudal times. Beyond that, Pyongyang even uses its own calendar system, the Juche calendar. Instead of counting from the Gregorian era, they count from 1912, the birth year of Kim Il-sung. Therefore, while the world steps into 2025, North Korea is living in the year 114 Juche. Interestingly, in official documents, dates are usually written with both the Juche calendar and the international calendar, in parallel to avoid confusion when dealing with outsiders. Even the protection of the leader carries strong feudal characteristics. The bodyguard unit around Kim Jong-un is maintained through hereditary succession. A father who once served Kim Il-sung or Kim Jong-il would pass the duty down to his son to continue protecting Kim Jong-un. Their mission is extremely strict, always maintaining an exact distance when walking with the leader to form a living defensive circle. This scene is reminiscent of the loyal imperial guards closely following emperors in East Asian history. And like any dynasty in history, the backstage of power in North Korea is also full of struggles. In 2013, Jang Song-taek, Kim Jong-un's uncle, who was once considered the second most powerful figure in North Korea, was executed on charges of treason. By 2017, Kim Jong-nam, Kim Jong-un's half-brother, was suddenly assassinated at Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia. Two women approached him and smeared the VX nerve agent on his face, causing him to die within just 20 minutes. Many international intelligence agencies believe that Pyongyang was directly involved, as Kim Jong-nam had lived in exile and was seen as a potential threat to the leadership throne. Do you think Kim Ju-ae could become the first female leader in North Korea's history? If that happens, it would be the first time a red princess rises to power. What do you think about this scenario? Share your thoughts in the comments. Number 2. The strange war with South Korea. Everyone knows North Korea and South Korea are like water and fire. One side constantly declares that just a push of a button is enough to wipe out the other, while the other responds with massive military drills and modern defense systems. But interestingly, beyond these tense shows of force, sometimes the two countries fight each other in surprisingly childish ways. While North Korea flaunts its nuclear weapons, South Korea has a softer yet highly effective weapon, K-pop. The South Korean military once set up giant loudspeakers right at the border, 6 meters tall and 3 meters wide, with enough power for the sound to travel more than 20 kilometers into North Korean territory. Day and night, these speakers blasted international news, messages of democracy, calls for reunification, and of course, hit K-pop songs full of energy, with lyrics that stirred a longing for freedom. It may sound funny, but it actually worked. Many North Korean soldiers became demoralized. Some even risked defecting to South Korea, requesting to listen to K-pop. In response, Pyongyang ordered public executions for anyone caught listening to or spreading South Korean music or films. To them, K-pop is not just entertainment, but a cultural threat that undermines the foundation of their society. Of course, North Korea did not stay quiet. They set up their own loudspeakers in retaliation, continuously broadcasting revolutionary songs, odes to the leader, and criticism of South Korea. Imagine border residents having to endure this loudspeaker duel every day. On one side, lively idol music. On the other, revolutionary anthems. It's no wonder many just wanted to hide in shelters to save their ears. At one point, things seemed to ease. South Korea even sent famous artists to perform in Pyongyang as a cultural exchange effort. Everything looked friendlier until the camera panned to the audience. North Korean leaders and top officials sat motionless, expressionless, and silent from beginning to end. Only when the performance finished did they clap in unison, like robots. Many joked that no matter how relaxed relations seemed, disputes still existed at that moment. Even a single smile could cause trouble. So, sitting still was the safest choice. When tensions rose again, South Korea changed tactics. They used balloons to drop leaflets, USBs with TV dramas, K-pop music, and even US dollars into North Korea. The goal remained the same: to give North Koreans access to the outside world. North Korea responded with no less creativity. They released balloons filled with trash, altogether about 15 tons into South Korean territory. Among the debris were cigarette butts, rags, and plastic bags, forcing the South Korean government to deploy special teams in case toxic substances were included. Some even landed near the presidential office, sparking heated diplomatic disputes. If international conflicts only stopped at loudspeaker and balloon wars like this, perhaps the world would already be a much more peaceful place. What do you think about this unusual kind of confrontation? Number 3. The hardest women to marry in the world. Many have remarked that South Korean women tend to look almost identical, with big round eyes, high nose bridges, V-line faces, and smooth white skin. In reality, this is the product of national beauty standards combined with a booming cosmetic surgery industry. But if you want to see what naturally unaltered Korean women look like, then turn your eyes to North Korea. This country is almost closed off from the world, so neither Western trends nor modern cosmetic surgery techniques affect daily life. Women here retain all the natural features gifted by genetics, such as the typical East Asian single eyelids, small delicate noses, and healthy radiant skin. Some defectors have even shared that in North Korea, cosmetic surgery is considered faking a loyal face. So those who undergo procedures may be condemned or find it hard to be accepted in society. In their daily clothing, they favor modest and elegant styles. Long skirts, long-sleeved tops, high collars, and neutral colors are common choices. An interesting fact is that North Korean women were once forbidden to wear pants, as former leader Kim Il-sung believed that pants were only for men. For many years, women only wore skirts, from business attire to long traditional dresses. It was not until Kim Jong-un's era that the ban was lifted and pants returned to everyday life. When it comes to marriage, North Korean women often wed early, in their early or mid-22s. Being single at 30 is considered unusual. Divorce rates in the country are also extremely low, but not necessarily because everyone is happy. Rather, society is less accepting of separation. In relationships, men usually make the decisions, from proposing to setting the wedding date. If you've ever thought about dating a North Korean woman and dreamed of a happy ending, unfortunately that's almost impossible. Marrying a foreigner in North Korea is extremely difficult, as the government enforces strict rules to protect what they call the pure national bloodline. They believe that marrying outsiders would weaken national spirit and affect the loyalty of future generations. There was once a case of a Vietnamese man who went to study in North Korea and fell in love with a local woman. Although the two loved each other sincerely, state policy did not allow them to marry. Only after the president of Vietnam personally intervened did the North Korean government permit an official wedding ceremony. Loving a North Korean woman may not be too difficult, but marrying one is truly the challenge. So, if it were you, how much of a chance do you think you'd have? Number 4. Things you will never see in North Korea. In North Korea, most people have never even heard of Coca-Cola, don't know what McDonald's is, and have never once tasted an American-style hamburger. If you walk into any supermarket in the country, the closest thing to Coca-Cola is probably a soft drink called Cocoa. At first glance, it looks like cola. It's fizzy and sweet, but the taste is completely different from the soda or cola you're familiar with. As for hamburgers, they do exist, but the North Korean version is just a small sandwich with a thin layer of meat, thoroughly cooked vegetables, and a sauce similar to mayonnaise. It may look somewhat like a hamburger, but once you eat it, you can't really call it one. The North Korean government has long applied the principle of self-sufficiency and strictly limits foreign cultural influence. If a Western product becomes popular, they try to make a domestic version, but the result usually differs significantly in quality, appearance, or function. And if they can't replicate it, the product simply doesn't exist in everyday life. In this country, you'll also rarely see anyone wearing jeans, especially blue ones. These were once considered a symbol of American capitalist culture and were banned for quite a long time. Although the rule has loosened somewhat now, jeans are still very rare. People usually wear dress shirts, trousers, or traditional clothing. So anyone wearing ripped jeans or flashy shoes would immediately stand out as if they came from another planet. For women, access to personal hygiene products is also a luxury. Items such as sanitary pads, tampons, or feminine wash are almost non-existent in stores. The reason is that North Korea's industry prioritizes defense and heavy manufacturing, while consumer products that require advanced production lines are not invested in. As a result, women during their menstrual cycle must revert to traditional methods, using cloth washed and reused many times. Some defectors have even reported that they once had to use old newspapers in place of sanitary pads when no other option was available. Another shocking fact is that most people here have never heard of condoms. The North Korean government does not encourage modern contraceptive methods. Because they want to increase the population to strengthen the workforce, condom use is discouraged and almost non-existent in the official distribution system. And what about technology? There are no iPhones, no Samsungs, no MacBooks here. Citizens are only allowed to use domestic phones with names like Arirang, Jindale, or Pyongyang. These devices have basic functions, and their most notable feature is the built-in censorship software. This system monitors all activities, blocks unauthorized content, and records data so the state can track users. Number 5. A nation obsessed with control. North Korea is often mentioned as one of the most tightly controlled countries in the world. You've probably heard that people there cannot access the global internet, but are only allowed to use a state-supervised intranet. They cannot make international phone calls, cannot leave the country without permission, and even their choice of hairstyle is limited to a list of about 28 approved styles. That already sounds strict, but in reality, the level of control is far more severe. From the moment a child is born, they are placed into a system called songbun. This is a classification mechanism based on family background. If you are born into a family loyal to the regime, you receive many privileges in education and employment. On the other hand, if your family is deemed to have a bad background, your children are almost certain to have restricted opportunities, forced to live in poverty-stricken regions, and accept a future with few choices. Some people are even classified based on the actions of their ancestors decades ago, meaning the mistakes of grandparents can affect their descendants for generations. When they enter elementary school, besides basic subjects, students must attend political classes, where they study daily about the leaders and their greatness. All books, television, and radio are under state control. Citizens only receive the information the government wants them to know, to the extent that while the rest of the world clearly recognizes North and South Korea as two separate nations, most North Koreans believe there is only one unified Korea because on their maps, South Korea does not exist at all. As they grow up and reach working age, people are not free to choose their jobs. Employment is assigned by the state, and changing jobs is nearly impossible, unless you have enough money to bribe your way through. There was even a time when thousands of young people were taken out of cities and sent to the mountains to plant potatoes and very likely had to remain farmers for life. Even love and marriage are influenced. Those from the upper class can only marry within the same class. If you have a bad background, marrying someone from the elite is nearly impossible. Even emotional expression is controlled. Citizens are required to cry when they see the leader or during periods of national mourning. State television often broadcasts footage of crowds weeping to prove loyalty. If someone doesn't cry, or their crying is judged as not sincere enough, the consequences are certainly unpleasant. Can you imagine living in a country where almost every choice, from birth to adulthood, is made for you? Number 6. North Koreans earn only $310 a month. Guess how much a worker in North Korea makes per month? $500? $200? Or at least $100? The reality shocks many people. Only about $3 to $10 US. A factory worker usually earns $3-5. Teachers might get a little more, while doctors, a profession highly respected in many countries, earn only about $10-15. Even soldiers, considered the backbone of the country, are paid just a symbolic few dollars a month. In fact, Some veterans have revealed that official salaries are almost meaningless. What they really live on are food rations and sometimes gifts from family. So how does society function when people practically can't live on wages? The answer lies in state subsidies. Every family is provided free housing, rations of rice and cooking oil, electricity, as well as schools and public hospitals at no cost. Thanks to this, everyone can maintain at least a minimal basic standard of living. But this distribution system often falls short. In some areas, rice rations are not delivered for months, and cooking oil is always scarce. At such times, people must fend for themselves through makeshift markets called jangmadang. These are not black markets for luxury goods, but places selling all kinds of essentials: vegetables, dried fish, clothes, soap, medicine, and even imported goods from China. Prices in the jangmadang are usually higher than state rations, but when warehouses run empty, they are practically the only option. Daily life is also full of hardships, especially frequent power outages. Seen from satellites at night, North Korea is almost entirely dark, with only the capital Pyongyang faintly lit. In rural areas, electricity is often available for just a few hours a day. Children must study under streetlights, while at home, families rely on candles or oil lamps. Better-off households buy batteries to store power, but these are only enough to light a few bulbs or charge a phone. Even bathing in hot water is not easy. Although housing is free, many apartment complexes lack hot water systems. People must go to public bathhouses, where water is heated with coal, firewood, or oil, and then pumped into tanks. In winter, when temperatures drop below zero, lining up to bathe is a familiar sight. Those who don't want the crowds must heat water in a basin and bathe at home. What do you think about the daily life of North Koreans? Share your thoughts in the comments. Number 7. Pyongyang, the most closed-off capital in the world. Pyongyang is both the capital and the largest, most populous city of North Korea. About 3 million people live here, accounting for nearly 12% of the country's population. However, the interesting thing is that not everyone can set foot in the capital. To become an official resident, you need household registration and, more importantly, a spotless political record. Only those deemed absolutely loyal to the regime have the chance to stay. This makes living in Pyongyang a rare privilege rather than a right for all citizens. As the capital, the city also gathers most of North Korea's grandest structures. The 105-story Ryugyong Hotel was once expected to become the tallest hotel in the world in the 1,990 seconds. But instead of turning into a tourism symbol, it became famous for being abandoned for many years. Pyongyang also boasts a triumphal arch taller than the one in Paris, standing 60 meters high. Directly opposite is the Juche Tower, 170 meters tall, representing the national ideology. And few people know that the world's largest stadium is also here, Rungrado Mayday Stadium, with a capacity of 150,000 seats. It is not only used for sports, but also for parades and massive mass performances rarely seen anywhere else. One event even recorded more than 100,000 participants performing in unison, an almost unimaginable number. Underground, Pyongyang's metro system is another highlight. The city has 2 subway lines, with stations lavishly decorated with chandeliers, murals, and granite columns. Some stations are as deep as 100 meters, designed to serve as bomb shelters during wartime. Tourists have reported that when riding the metro, they were only allowed to get off at certain stations to avoid seeing shortages or unfinished areas. Compared to other regions, Pyongyang is literally bright. In the countryside, electricity is available only a few hours a day. But in the capital, especially downtown, it is supplied almost continuously. That's why nighttime satellite images show a stark contrast. The entire country in darkness, with only Pyongyang standing out in light. Daily life here starts very early. Around 6 a.m., revolutionary music blares from public loudspeakers to wake the whole city. Residents dress neatly and head to school or work in an orderly manner. Physical and cultural activities are also inseparable parts of life. In the morning, many groups exercise in parks. By afternoon, in public squares, you'll find people of all ages joining mass dances. However, Western visitors note that the atmosphere at these dances feels rather stiff, as many participants join more to demonstrate proper conduct than for enjoyment. Overall, the rhythm of life in the capital is regular and disciplined, but it lacks the vibrancy typical of other world capitals. Number 8. The most formidable military force in Asia. It may sound like mere threats, but North Korea's claim that it could wipe out South Korea with the push of a button is no joke. Since 2006, Pyongyang has conducted multiple successful nuclear tests. Most notable was the bomb in 2017, said to be many times stronger than the one that destroyed Hiroshima. The exact number of weapons remains a secret, but the fact that a poor and isolated country possesses weapons powerful enough to level an entire city is enough to make the world cautious. It's no surprise that even the United States always keeps a close watch on Pyongyang's every move. But nuclear weapons are not the whole story. What makes North Korea even more formidable is the sheer size of its military. With about 1.3 million active soldiers, it ranks among the largest in the world behind only China and the US, despite its relatively modest population. On top of that, there is the worker-peasant Red Guard militia with an estimated 5.7 million members, plus about 600,000 reservists. If fully mobilized in an emergency, the country could field nearly 8 million troops. In other words, about 3 out of every 10 citizens are ready to pick up a gun from the noodle seller at the market to the kindergarten teacher. To maintain such enormous numbers, military service is mandatory. Both men and women must serve. Men are required to serve up to 10 years, and before 2021, the period once stretched to 13 years, nearly their entire youth. For women, service lasts up to 7 years, except for those in poor health or already with small children. Many experts have remarked that North Korea resembles a barracks nation, where militarization permeates every corner of daily life. In reality, training does not begin only when joining the army, but starts very early. From elementary school, students are taught marching drills, how to walk in step, and stand at attention. By high school, the curriculum includes shooting, grenade throwing, and field exercises. Even before graduation, students must undergo several weeks of intensive military training, much like a trial enlistment. Thanks to such preparation from a young age, it's no surprise that North Korea can mobilize a massive force in such a short time. Number 9. Backward traffic in Pyongyang. Pyongyang is probably one of the few capitals in the world where you can stand in the middle of a multi-lane boulevard, look far into the distance, and still hardly see any vehicles passing by. Here, cars are considered a privilege for officials, the military, or people with special connections. For ordinary citizens, owning a car is nearly impossible, as prices are many times higher than their income, and even to buy one requires going through layers of permits. The result is a rather unusual picture of the North Korean capital. Plenty of roads, but very few cars. So what do people use to get around? Mostly public transportation. Buses and trams are always packed. Each time the doors open, crowds pour out, immediately replaced by another group rushing in. If you go underground, you'll find the metro system the city's most crowded means of transport. Stations are always jam-packed, escalators carrying streams of people down to crammed carriages where seats are almost never available. Most of the trains are old, some imported from East Germany decades ago, but they still run reliably and are essential for commuting to work and school. In addition, bicycles are a common solution for many families. There was a time when women were banned from riding bicycles, as it was considered inappropriate for social norms. But once the ban was lifted, bicycles quickly spread everywhere, becoming a cheap, convenient means of transport in a country where fuel is always scarce. Because there are so few cars, Pyongyang's streets don't need many traffic lights. Instead, you'll often see female traffic police officers in blue uniforms, white boots, standing at major intersections and directing traffic with firm, precise gestures. There are currently about 300 such officers in the city, recruited under very strict standards. They must be female, single, aged 16 to 26, at least 1.63 to 1, 65 meters tall, healthy, pleasant-looking by local standards, and at least high school graduates. It is believed that deploying these female officers is also a way for the government to decorate the city. They serve as symbols of order and discipline, ensuring smooth traffic while also creating a tidy and pleasing impression for foreign visitors. It's no wonder the government pays special attention to their uniforms, demeanor, and public image whenever they appear in public. Number 10. Mysterious places in North Korea. One of the most enigmatic locations in North Korea is Lake Cheon, situated on Mount Chilbo in North Hamgyong province. This is a small volcanic lake nestled among mountains, famous for their strange terrain. Vertical rock columns and fractured slopes, forming shapes like giant sculptures. Lake Cheon is surrounded by steep cliffs, its water clear and blue but often turning red or gray after heavy rains, leading locals to believe that a mysterious force lies hidden beneath. Some of the rare visitors who have been there reported that on quiet days, the surface of the lake suddenly showed evenly spaced circular ripples, as if something was moving below. North Korean scientists have explained that this phenomenon might be related to residual volcanic gases, but they have never released concrete data. Meanwhile, some South Korean geologists suggest the lake has strong underground water channels connected to an old magma system, causing its minerals and water color to change frequently. Since no international research has ever been conducted, all information relies only on anecdotes and a few tourist photos. This lack of data has turned Lake Cheon into a place that is both beautiful and filled with curiosity about what might be hidden beneath its waters. Farther north lies Mount Paektu, the highest volcano on the Korean peninsula, standing over 2,700 meters tall. At its summit sits the massive Heaven Lake, formed within the crater. What is strange here is that the lake's water level can change rapidly, sometimes rising by a meter in just a few days, before dropping again without any obvious outflow. The water's color is also unpredictable, sometimes deep blue, other times murky, as if something were stirring from the bottom. A 2002 monitoring report even recorded a series of small tremors beneath the mountain, occasionally accompanied by echoing sounds similar to distant explosions. This suggests that the enormous magma chamber under Paektu is still active and that the risk of eruption has not disappeared. The eruption that occurred in the 10th century is considered one of the largest in the nation's history, with ash reaching as far as Japan and Greenland. Beyond its scientific significance, Paektu is also tied to legends of Korean origins and is used as a political symbol. What no one has yet explained is why the lake's water level changes so quickly, and what the sounds from within the mountain truly signify. The blend of geological data and layers of mythology makes Paektu one of North Korea's most fascinating natural mysteries. Number 11. Must-see destinations in North Korea. When talking about tourism in North Korea, most people immediately think of the capital, Pyongyang. However, the country also has many other destinations that combine majestic beauty with deep historical significance. One of them is the city of Kaesong, located right near the South Korean border. This was once the capital of the Goryeo dynasty. So many ancient relics are still preserved. Visitors here can explore royal tombs, traditional wooden houses, more than 600 years old, and the Goryeo History Museum, which displays many rare artifacts. Kaesong is also famous for its lavish meal consisting of more than 10 dishes served in small bowls, a unique cultural and culinary experience. Not far from Kaesong lies the Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, one of the most unusual places on Earth. This is the dividing line of the Korean peninsula, always under strict guard. Visitors can step into the Panmunjom Conference Hall, where important negotiations once took place. The experience here is both thrilling and intriguing, as just a few steps can put you right on the boundary between two nations that have long been adversaries. For those seeking natural beauty, Mount Myeoyeong is a perfect choice. This mountain range is famous for its majestic waterfalls, mysterious caves, and fresh air. It is also home to the International Friendship Exhibition, which showcases tens of thousands of gifts presented to North Korean leaders from around the world. Visitors can both hike the mountains and marvel at this vast and rare collection. In addition, one cannot miss Mount Kumgang, also known as the Diamond Mountains, a scenic wonder renowned for centuries. The area is divided into Inner Kumgang, Outer Kumgang, and Sea Kumgang, each with its own distinct beauty. In spring and autumn, the scenery bursts with blossoms and fiery leaves. In winter, the snow-covered peaks create a magical atmosphere. Walking along its trails, gazing at waterfalls, clear lakes, and ancient temples is sure to leave lasting impressions. Farther north lies the city of Raisin, at the border with Russia and China. This is a special economic zone, and one of the few places where visitors can feel a true cultural intersection. The markets in Raisin are lively, selling everything from seafood and vegetables to electronic devices. Visitors can pay with multiple currencies such as Chinese yuan, Russian rubles, or US dollars, since foreigners are not allowed to use North Korea's local currency. Number 12. Must. Try dishes in North Korea. One of the most iconic North Korean dishes is naengmyeon, or cold noodles, which is especially popular in summer. The noodles are made from buckwheat or potato flour, long and thin but chewy. They are served in a chilled broth, usually made from beef or chicken, sometimes with a bit of kimchi juice added for a light tang. On top of the noodles, you'll typically find slices of boiled meat, half a boiled egg, julienned cucumber, and a few slices of fresh pear. The flavor of naengmyeon is both refreshing and rich, cooling yet filling. It is often served at summer gatherings, particularly when guests are present, as it reflects the host's sophistication in balancing ingredients. An interesting detail is that the noodles are made very long, symbolizing longevity, and hosts usually cut them shorter with scissors to make them easier for guests to eat. Next is bulgogi, the famous marinated grilled beef dish loved throughout the Korean peninsula. Thin slices of beef are marinated in soy sauce, garlic, onion, sesame oil, and a bit of sugar to give a mild sweetness. When grilled over hot coals or on a hot pan, the meat releases an irresistible aroma, becoming tender and juicy. Bulgogi is often eaten wrapped in lettuce or perilla leaves, with roasted garlic and soybean paste rolled into bite-sized portions. This dish is a staple at family gatherings, holidays, or when entertaining guests. Culturally, bulgogi symbolizes hospitality, as beef was once considered a precious ingredient reserved for special occasions. The moment when everyone sits around the table, chatting and sharing pieces of meat, perfectly reflects the communal spirit in North Korean cuisine. One cannot miss tteok, or rice cakes, a traditional food full of symbolism. Tteok is made by pounding glutinous rice into a smooth dough, then shaping it into different forms. Some are steamed, others coated with mung bean or red bean powder. The cakes are chewy with a light sweetness, sometimes filled with chestnut or red bean paste for added flavor. North Koreans usually eat tteok during birthdays, weddings, Lunar New Year, and harvest festivals. Rice cakes symbolize luck and prosperity, with their white color representing purity. The sight of colorful rice cake platters on festival tables feels both warm and ceremonial. Number 13. Important notes for tourists. When traveling in North Korea, the first thing to keep in mind is that your entire itinerary will be managed by local guides. Usually, 2 guides accompany the group to supervise. Tourists are not allowed to leave the group or wander alone, even just around the hotel. The reason is that the government wants to ensure visitors only access permitted areas, avoiding direct contact with locals or photographing inappropriate scenes. There have been cases where tourists went out on their own and were immediately ordered to return, even required to write a report. Therefore, if you are used to independent travel, be prepared that in North Korea, every experience follows a fixed schedule. During meals, there are also special rules. The menu is usually the same for the whole group, with little room for personal choices. If you cannot eat spicy food or want a different portion, requesting changes may put staff in an awkward position. Some tourists bring along snacks or chocolate to supplement their meals, but be cautious about sharing with locals, as this may be seen as breaking the rules. It's best to consume such items only in your hotel room or within your group. Another thing that surprises many visitors is that shopping can only take place in stores designated for foreigners. Tourists cannot simply walk into local supermarkets or shops. Some have tried, but were immediately stopped. As a result, shopping in North Korea often feels like a stage set up in advance, with goods and prices quite different from real everyday life outside. Number 14. Unique festivals of North Korea. One of the largest and most spectacular festivals in North Korea is the Day of the Sun, held every year on April 15. This marks the birthday of Kim Il-sung, honored as the founding leader, and is celebrated as a nationwide event. On this day, major squares transform into massive stages, with parades, group dances, and artistic performances involving thousands of participants. People wear traditional hanbok costumes, carrying colorful plastic flowers to form large-scale displays. Over the skies of Pyongyang, fireworks light up brightly, while concerts are broadcast live. What's special is that the festive atmosphere is not limited to the capital. It spreads simultaneously across the entire country, from major cities to small towns, in a level of uniformity rarely seen elsewhere. Alongside it is the Kim Il-sung Flower Festival, usually held around the same time in April. This event is dedicated to the Kimilsungia orchid, originally from Indonesia but later cultivated in North Korea. During the festival, hundreds of thousands of flower pots are arranged in massive exhibition halls, forming shapes, words, and giant floral pictures. Visitors can admire artworks made entirely from flowers, such as images of Mount Paektu, congratulatory messages, or national symbols. Interestingly, many government agencies, schools, and enterprises contribute flower displays, turning the event into both an exhibition and a collective creativity competition. The atmosphere here bursts with colors, folk music, and meticulous arrangements. In autumn, the Arirang Festival becomes the most grandiose artistic event, usually held from August to September at the Rungredo May Day Stadium, which seats more than 100,000 people. Its highlight is the massive synchronized performances. Tens of thousands of participants together create moving pictures. On the opposite grandstand, thousands of students hold colored cards, changing them in unison to form a gigantic backdrop displaying mountains, national symbols, or everyday life scenes. The performances often center on themes of history, peace aspirations, and national pride. The absolute precision of tens of thousands of performers has earned Arirang a place in the Guinness World Records as one of the largest mass performances in the world. Number 15. Travel costs in North Korea. Traveling to North Korea is generally much more expensive than other destinations, as international visitors are required to book an all-inclusive tour. A basic package, lasting 4 to 5 days, costs between $1,000 and $1,500. This price includes hotel accommodation, meals, domestic transportation, and entrance fees. Typically, you'll stay in 3 to 4-star hotels in Pyongyang. Rooms have basic amenities, but limited entertainment services. If you choose higher-end hotels, such as the Koryo or Yanggakdo, the tour price will increase by several hundred USD. Meals are already included in the tour package. They are usually set menus featuring multiple traditional dishes, valued at around $10 to $20 each, if priced separately. Imported drinks are much more expensive, while local beer costs about $3 to $5 per bottle, and spirits can go up to $30 for a small bottle. Domestic travel is mainly by bus or private group vehicles, also included in the package price. International flights to Pyongyang usually depart from Beijing, with round-trip tickets ranging from $600 to $800. Entrance fees are covered in the tour cost, but if you want to join special activities such as hiking Mount Myeoyang or visiting specialized museums, you'll need to pay an additional $30 to $50. Internet access in North Korea is extremely limited. Hotel Wi-Fi is practically non-existent. The only option is to buy an international 3G SIM card, which costs about $200 for a small data package. Most extra expenses come from buying souvenirs, such as stamps, posters, or handicrafts, priced between $5 and $50 each. Overall, a 5-day trip usually costs between $2,000 and $2,500, depending on personal spending. So, we've just explored 15 strange facts about North Korea together. Hopefully, this information has given you a more interesting perspective on one of the most mysterious countries in the world. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to join us on our next journeys. Among the facts we just covered, which one surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We always want to hear your opinion.